She rescued a drowning billionaire at 3 a.m. Now he'll stop at nothing to find her. The night was drenched in darkness, a deep void broken only by the flicker of distant stars. But in that quiet storm, an unthinkable chaos was brewing. 3 a.m., the witching hour when shadows reach out like hands, and the world feels stretched between reality and nightmares. In the stillness near the old pier, an urgent splash broke through the silence. A figure was struggling, the kind of struggle that felt primal and desperate. It was a man, mouth gasping against the relentless waves that sought to drag him under. Martha, wide-eyed and clutching her phone, couldn't believe her eyes. She was just out for a late-night walk, searching for solace after a tough breakup. The cold spray of water hit her skin, sending shivers down her spine, but adrenaline surged as she raced towards the edge of the dock. The moonlight revealed his face, pale, frantic, and undeniably handsome, even in his panic. He was drowning, and despite her fears, something pulled her to him. With trembling hands, she plunged into the bracing water, feeling the chill wrap around her like a tightening vice. The salty tang of the sea mixed with her racing thoughts. What if she couldn't save him? But she dove deeper, her heart pounding like a drum. Inch by inch she reached him, her fingers brushing against his, the terror in his eyes speaking volumes. In that electrifying moment when their hands met, she pulled not just him but her own fears into the depths of the unknown. When finally she dragged him to the surface, gasping for air, she realized he wasn't just any man. He was a billionaire, a name whispered in the halls of power and luxury. But in that moment, all that power meant nothing as he coughed and spluttered, eyes wide, looking not at the life-saving stranger, but beyond, as if destiny had stirred something in him that he couldn't understand. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment hung between them, electric yet uncertain, as their fates intertwined on a sliver of fate's knife. As Martha dragged him out of the water, gasping and sputtering, panic ignited in his eyes. While the world around them buzzed with whispers, she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental had shifted. She looked over her shoulder, sensing the eyes of the night watching, waiting. What would he do next? Would he seek her out again? And what did it mean for her? This strange twist of destiny cloaked in the shroud of darkness. The wind howled around them, hinting at secrets yet to be unearthed, leaving a haunting question lingering in the air. Had she just saved a life or tangled herself into a dangerous web of wealth and desire? Martha could barely comprehend what had just transpired. She stood there on the dock, blinking back the salt water that mingled with the tears she hadn't known had spilled from her eyes. The man she had saved, the striking figure tethered to a world far removed from her own, coughed violently, a mix of sea and fear escaping his lips. Her heart hammered as she struggled to digest the night's surreal turn. Who are you? He finally rasped, looking at her with a penetrating gaze that felt like it could see right through her soul. Martha, she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. This wasn't just any man. He was someone powerful, someone important. Yet here he was, vulnerable and alive because of her. Thank you, he murmured, still catching his breath. But there was something else in his eyes, something that hinted at a connection that went deeper than gratitude. Before she could grasp the gravity of the situation, footsteps echoed behind her, snapping her back to reality. A group of onlookers had formed, murmurs buzzing like angry bees. Their eyes were glued to the spectacle, a drowning billionaire rescued by a regular woman. Whispers of scandal filled the air. Fear crept up Martha's spine. Would they twist her act of bravery into a story that would ruin her? Let us get you out of here, she said, scrambling to regain her composure. She offered her hand to the man, who hesitated for a beat before accepting it. As he pulled himself up, their eyes locked again, and an electric spark shot through her. Wait! One of the spectators called. Is he okay? Martha turned, ready to reassure them, but the look on his face said otherwise. Before she could react, the billionaire stumbled backward, wobbling on the unstable dock, a flicker of panic crossing his features. He reached for her, but it was too late. He was falling again, this time into a different abyss, the abyss of uncertainty and newfound fame. "Martha!" he called out, grasping for stability. She lunged for him, grabbing his arm, pulling him back as the crowd gasped. This moment felt impossibly fragile, like glass about to shatter. Did he realize what had just happened? This was no accident, it felt like fate, or something more dangerous, something that threatened to change both their lives. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, a dark figure broke through the gathering crowd, a tall man with sharp eyes and an authoritative stance. Martha's breath hitched as he approached, casting a shadow that seemed to engulf the dock. "Get away from him!" he barked, his voice a harsh whisper that sent chills racing down her spine. The billionaire stiffened, panic gleaming in his eyes once more. "No, she saved me." Martha looked between the two men, confusion swirling in her mind. Who was this new figure? A bodyguard? A rival? She could feel the weight of the moment shift, the ground beneath her shaking, like the sea moments before a storm. As the tension thickened like fog, she realized she had to make a choice. Would she stay and unravel this complicated web? Or slip away into the night, saving herself the trouble? But her heart wouldn't let her. An invisible thread pulled her forward into the tangled lives that awaited her. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice rising above the chaos. The question hung heavy in the air, each second stretching like a rubber band ready to snap. The storm was not just in the sky above but in the souls around her. "Your worst nightmare if you don't step back," he replied, his voice icy and unforgiving. Martha felt a shiver run through her, fueling the dread in her chest. She had saved a drowning man but awakened something far more menacing. Would the darkest parts of his world swallow her whole? As she looked back at the billionaire, she saw not just a man in distress but the promise of adventure and peril. Then came the chilling thought. Was he truly the hero she had saved? Or was he just the beginning of a nightmare that would chase her through the shadows? And as the night deepened, one question echoed in her mind. Was there any escape from this new, uncharted path? The air thickened with tension as Martha stood frozen, caught between the towering figure and the man she had just saved. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd. The shadows of the dock loomed larger, almost as if they were conspiring against her. "Do you understand what you've done?" the dark figure hissed, narrowing his eyes. "You're entangled in something far beyond your comprehension." Martha's breath quickened. "I didn't mean to," she stammered, searching for words that could bridge the chasm of misunderstanding. The billionaire, still reeling from his brush with death, took a step forward, his gaze sharp with a mix of fear and defiance. "She saved my life. You don't get to threaten her." "Saved your life? Or dragged you into another mess?" The figure shot back, a sneer twisting his lips. "You're a target now. Everyone's going to want a piece of you. This is just the beginning." Panic flooded Martha. "What are you talking about?" "Enough." He stepped closer, looming over her. "You won't be able to walk away from this. Not now." An instinctive urge to flee clawed at Martha, but she remained anchored, her heart pounding in her chest. "Then tell me what I need to know." The man's eyes softened just for a moment, as if he suddenly recognized something in her, a flicker of bravery, perhaps. "You really want to know?" he asked, his voice surprisingly calm. "Of course. Then keep your distance." A sigh of relief escaped her, mingling with the biting air. Maybe with a few answers she could navigate this chaos. "You said I was in danger. From who? What am I unraveling here?" "The world you saved him from," he replied, gesturing dramatically toward the water, the moon casting a silvery sheen that illuminated the chaos starting to unfold. "For you it's an adventure. For him it's a nightmare. A play for power, wealth, and control played out on the backs of innocent people like you." The weight of his words settled in her stomach like a stone. "So you're saying this is all just a game?" The billionaire's expression darkened. "You have no idea. Someone will come for him. And if you're in the way, I won't back down." Martha interrupted. The fire igniting in her gut made her hands tremble with determination. But deep down she was shaken. She had stepped into a world she didn't know. A game of high stakes without the slightest clue of the rules. Behind her, the crowd murmured again, their judgment and curiosity working like a noose tightening around her neck. She could feel their eyes boring into her, weighing her worth in this strange, terrifying scenario. "Listen to me, Martha," the man implored, abandoning his aggressive stance for a heartbeat. "This isn't just about you or him. People die in this world. If it comes down to it, will you still stand up for him?" His words penetrated her, leaving her breathless. Could she really choose to fight for someone she barely knew? A man wrapped in privilege and shadows? "I saved his life," she whispered, feeling both empowered and lost. "I have to know what happens next." A laugh emerged, low and gravelly, from the shadowy figure. "Then welcome to the nightmare." The air crackled with an unspoken challenge. She could sense that this was a turning point. Before Martha could respond, a sudden commotion erupted from the crowd. Someone pushed through, a chaotic figure closing in. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." Martha turned, her heart racing. The unexpected visitor bore an all too familiar face. Her brother, Jake, his expression twisted in worry. "Martha!" he shouted, reaching her in a few hurried strides. "What's going on?" In that moment the world collapsed around her, a mix of concerns, threats, and burdens. Would she step deeper into the shadows, or pull back to safety? Struggling to breathe, she realized the monster she had awakened might just be the start of something far darker than she'd ever anticipated. "Jake, I find a way to keep her safe," the dark figure said as he turned to the billionaire. "I'll handle the rest." And just like that, the night unveiled itself, shrouded in more uncertainty than ever. A fight was brewing, a battle of survival, and Martha was at the center of it all, on the brink of a decision that could change everything. The question loomed. Could she trust this unexpected alliance, or was she about to step into the depths of a nightmare that would swallow them all whole? Martha's heart raced as confusion settled over her like a heavy fog. Jake was here, but so was danger. She couldn't let fear paralyze her. The dock felt like quicksand, pulling her under, each voice from the crowd blending into a cacophony of alarm. "Jake, this isn't what it looks like," she shouted, panic cracking her voice. "Then what is it?" he demanded, eyes darting from her to the imposing figure by the water. "Who's this guy?" "Just someone who wants me to back down," she exclaimed, the urgency of her words echoing in the growing tension around them. "Back down? From what?" Jake's chest heaved, the worry etched in every line on his face. "You're scaring me, Martha. Just come with me." Before she could respond, the dark figure stepped forward, blocking Jake's path. "This isn't a game, kid. She's part of something that's already begun. You don't want to get dragged into it." Jake scoffed, his bravado faltering. "You think you can scare me? I've dealt with worse in my life." But as Jake met the man's fierce gaze, he faltered, uncertainty creeping into his bravado. The weight of reality hung over them, palpable and suffocating. Martha took a breath, feeling the night chill bite at her skin. "I can't leave him. He's in danger." "And what about your own safety?" Jake shot back. "You think playing hero is worth this?" "It's not just about being a hero," she insisted, heat rising in her chest. "It's about doing what's right. I just saved his life, and if these people are after him, then they'll be after you too." The figure seemed to soften, a hint of understanding flickering in his eyes. "You've already made your choice." Martha was caught in a whirlwind, battling doubt and fear. What choice had she truly made? The shadows around her deepened, mocking her uncertainty. Her instincts were screaming at her to run, but her gut told her she couldn't turn her back. The billionaire stepped forward, his expression fierce yet vulnerable. "Martha, I understand why you want to help me, but this is about survival, not just for you or me, but for everyone you care about." The crowd swelled with whispers, tension crackling in the air like static. She could feel their eyes, judgment, curiosity, fear. She didn't want to be the target of their speculation. "Listen." She took a deep breath, letting her voice carry in the charged atmosphere. "If someone is coming for you, I have to know how to protect myself and anyone else who gets caught up in this." A sudden hush swept through the crowd, and the dark figure smiled grimly. "You may already have what it takes, Martha, but understanding the game will put you in a bigger crosshair. Are you ready for that?" Jake looked at her, desperation mingling with confusion. "You don't have to do this," he pleaded, stepping toward her. "We can leave together." "Together?" Martha echoed, doubt gnawing at her insides. The choice loomed larger than before. Would running only delay the inevitable? The dark figure leaned closer, intensity in his gaze. Choose wisely, because right now this decision matters more than you know. Martha's breath caught as realization flooded her senses. She was standing on the edge of an abyss, the darkness both inviting and frightening. One wrong step could cost her everything. As the murmur of the crowd rose like a tide, drowning out her thoughts, an ominous shadow detached itself from the corners of the alley nearby, its intentions unclear, but its approach unmistakably threatening. "Look out!" Jake shouted just as she caught sight of the movement. The dark figure was already moving, adopting a ready stance. But in the looming chaos, it was clear that danger had arrived with a vengeance, and Martha had to decide whether to fight alongside the shadows or flee into the night. With her heart racing, she clenched her fists, uncertainty twisting in her gut. Had she truly stepped into darkness, or was her path just beginning? And who lurked behind that threat? The night held its secrets tightly. Martha's instincts kicked into high gear. She felt a raw energy coursing through her veins, electrifying her limbs as shadows danced closer. The approaching figure loomed, a dark silhouette against the moonlit dock. She could barely make out its shape, but the intent was all too clear. It was coming for her. "Get back!" she shouted, her voice sharper and more determined. Jake grabbed her arm, his grip tight, panic flashing in his eyes. "Martha, please. We need to go now." But there was no time to think or leave. The confrontation was erupting around them with a violent urgency. "Stay close," the dark figure warned, positioning himself between Martha and the looming threat. There was something about him, a strength mingling with danger. The crowd swirled in a tide of whispers, frozen like spectators to a live horror show. Hearts pounded as everyone braced for what would come next. The air felt thick and electric, charged with tension. Then, someone broke through the crowd, a tall man with a face obscured by a hood. The dark figure narrowed his eyes, recognizing the threat, and Martha felt a chill race down her spine. The man was coming for her now. She could see it in the way he moved, swift and menacing. "Step away from her," he growled, voice low and dangerous. "Who are you?" Martha felt her voice tremble slightly, but her resolve held strong. The hooded figure laughed darkly, short and mocking. "Just someone who doesn't want you playing in waters far too deep, sweetheart." He glanced between her and the dark figure, gauging their reactions. "You think you can protect her? You're only putting a target on her back." Martha's eyes darted to Jake, whose face mirrored her own fear and desperation. The clash of motives swirled. Could she fight? Could she run? Heart racing, adrenaline pumping, she made a choice. "I don't need saving," she declared, forcing herself to stand tall. The words felt empowering, but she could sense the danger wrapping around her like a noose. The hooded man's grin widened, revealing a cruel pleasure in her fright. "You really think you can just walk away from this? You've stirred up something you don't understand." Before she could respond, the dark figure lunged, blocking the impending confrontation. The impact reverberated in the stillness as they collided, two shadows clashing in a dance of fists and fury. The crowd gasped collectively, a wave of shock rolling through them. Martha could hardly breathe, each heartbeat pounding in her ears. She glanced at Jake, whose expression had morphed from concern to sheer shock as the scene unfolded around them. Amidst the chaos, she caught movement from the corner of her eye. A glinting object slipped from the hooded figure's pocket. "A blade. Watch out," Jake shouted, but before he could make a move, Martha stood her ground. "No," she yelled, and with some inexplicable courage, she sprinted towards the fight, every part of her screaming against the madness but her heart pushing her forward. "Get back, Martha," the dark figure yelled, panic lacing his tone. But within that turmoil, she felt unyielding conviction. If danger was closing in, she'd face it head-on. With every ounce of strength, Martha lunged, reaching for the blade. But it was only a breath away from descending into chaos when a scream echoed through the crowd, one sharp, piercing. "What have you done?" Silence blanketed the dock as all eyes turned, revealing the source of the scream, a woman woven into the chaos, a face she recognized from the billionaire's life. Martha's heart sank. The night held a darker secret than she ever imagined, and it was unraveling before her. What horrors awaited as the evening spiraled down? And could she truly protect those she cared for amidst the approaching storm? Darkness was just beginning to unveil its twisted game. The scream pierced through the thick air like a knife, dawning an unsettling silence. Martha's heart raced as she whipped around to face the woman, her recognition unfolding into dread. It was Sarah, the billionaire's assistant, eyes wide with terror, hands trembling as she clutched a crimson-stained shirt. What happened? Martha's voice trembled as fear flooded her veins. Stop them. He has gone too far this time, Sarah gasped, pointing a frantic finger towards the fight. The hooded man had managed to break free, grappling with the dark figure on the floor of the dock. He seemed fueled by something beyond rage, a hunger for chaos that sent shivers down Martha's spine. They collided again, heavy fists meeting flesh with sickening thuds. Blood had already started to paint the dock, and the scent mixed with salty air, twisting the atmosphere into something suffocating. With every flicker of motion, Martha felt her resolve waver. She was no longer just a bystander but was somehow intertwined in a deadly game. Sarah, you need to get to safety, Jake shouted, his eyes strained in the dim light. The crowd had gathered closer, but fear kept people rooted, anticipation washing over them as they watched the chaos unfold. No, I can't leave him, Sarah screamed, her desperate eyes darting between Martha and the dark figure. He needs us. He is in trouble. The words cut through Martha's heart. Suddenly, a new layer of awareness settled upon her. This was more than protection, it was a race against time. With renewed determination, Martha took a step closer, adrenaline surging. We have to do something, Jake. We can't let this escalate. Whatever is going on here, we need to stop it before someone gets killed. But before Jake could reply, the hooded figure flung the dark man aside, catching Martha's gaze with icy clarity. In that moment, she caught a glimmer betrayal woven into the fibers of the evening. It was as though the shadows surrounding the dock bloomed with sinister purpose, tossing aside any shred of hope. Look who's not so tough anymore. The hooded man mocked, a twisted smile forming on his lips, relishing the bewildered eyes of those around him. Martha could feel the panic rising in her chest. The crowd gasped collectively again as the dark figure stumbled to his feet, sheer fury etched into his expression. But he wasn't ready to give up. With a roar that rattled through the crowd, he charged once more at the hooded figure. Stop! Martha screamed, rushing forward with a reckless abandon. She caught Sarah's look of horror, but she couldn't stop now. Thinking only of preventing bloodshed, she threw herself between the two men. What are you doing? Jake shouted, fear clawing at the edges of his voice. Ignoring him, Martha faced the chaos head-on. Enough! She yelled, trying to embody the bravery she didn't feel. Suddenly, the dock creaked beneath their feet, the sound echoing in the tense silence that fell, causing the confrontation to freeze. The earth seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, and for an instant, everything slowed down as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. And then, without warning, snapping and icy waves crashed against the docks, sending a shiver of togetherness through the onlookers. A blinding flash illuminated the scene. Their world flickered between light and dark before plunging back into shadows. Martha's breath caught in her throat as the chilling reality dawned on her. Instinctively, she turned toward Sarah, but all she could see were shadows swallowing her friend whole. The dock screamed with danger as it swayed precariously, and each wave crashed closer, threatening to consume everything. What had just become their sanctuary was now transforming into a nightmare. As the figures loomed over her, each heartbeat echoed with uncertainty. What lay ahead was unfathomable. But one question hung unspoken in the air, drawing a stark line in the escalating chaos. Was the real danger the fight itself, or something lurking in the depths beneath the water? The storm was not only in the air but was brewing within, and Martha had to uncover the truth before time ran out. What shadows passed beneath the surface, and could she truly save everyone? Or would she also be swept under? Martha felt as if she were trapped in a twisted nightmare. The dock's uneven ground shifted under her, mirroring the chaos above. She glanced back at the fighting men, adrenaline surging through her veins, each breath drifting heavily with fear. The water below them churned menacingly, inching closer like a predator poised to strike. Get back! Someone shouted, but the voices blurred into a cacophony of confusion. She couldn't shake the image of Sarah's terror-filled gaze from her mind. Where was her friend? What danger awaited beneath the waves? The hooded man's laughter sliced through the air, a sharp contrast to the tension encasing them. You think you can just stop this? He taunted, his voice dripping with contempt. In a swift, brutal motion, he launched himself at the dark figure again, fists flying. With each blow, time seemed to freeze, and Martha's heart raced as she realized that every second counted. Throwing her concern for herself aside, she scanned the area for something, anything that could help. She spotted a loose metal pipe on the ground nearby. Grabbing it, she gritted her teeth and steeled herself. With a deep breath, Martha stepped forward, yelling, "Just stop. There's no need for this." The bodies around her bystanders, onlookers, watched in horror, their faces pale with disbelief at her audacity. "Are you insane?" Jake shouted from behind her. His panic was palpable. "Get away from them." But she couldn't back down. Courage rose within her, fighting against the shroud of fear. "I said stop." The words hung in the air before dissipating into the tension-laden silence. The dark figure finally halted, eyes locking onto hers, confusion etching his features. "What's she doing?" A voice murmured from the crowd. Martha's grip tightened around the pipe, her breath hitching at the uncertain expressions around her. She had no idea what she was doing, but she knew she had to try. "You both need to listen. We can find a way out of this madness without more bloodshed." The hooded man sneered, clearly more interested in the damage he could inflict than the plea for peace. He lunged again, this time without regard for the fight, aiming directly at Martha. Time slowed and her instincts kicked in. She swung the pipe and it connected with a brutal thud, knocking him off balance. Gasps erupted from the gathering crowd, their collective shock amplifying the urgency of the moment. But before she could process the victory of her small triumph, the ground beneath her began to tremble once again. Panic erupted as the crashing waves splashed higher, sending icy droplets hurling toward her like spears. "Martha!" Sarah's voice finally broke through the noise, but it was filled with a raw, urgent panic. Martha's heart plummeted as she turned to see Sarah struggling against a dark shape emerging from the water. It wasn't just the storm that had come to life. Something in that murky abyss was rising. "Help!" Sarah screamed, her hands flailing as she valiantly tried to keep her head above water. The men froze, a dreaded realization dawning: this was no longer just a fight. Without thinking, Martha dashed toward the edge of the dock, desperation fueling her movements. The ruthless waves crashed violently against the wooden posts, threatening to swallow everything whole. In that moment, she felt a surge of power, a primal instinct to protect her friend. But just as she extended her hand towards Sarah, a dark shape broke the surface, a monstrous silhouette gliding just beneath. Electrifying fear gripped her heart, stealing her breath. What was beneath those waters? The crowd erupted in chaos, people began shouting, pulling back in horror. Martha felt rooted to the ground, torn between dreams of saving her friend and the alarming unknown pulling at her. "What was that?" she gasped, choking back panicked as the shadows edged closer, eclipsing the dock with their presence. She realized the real fight was not just above water. It was a battle for survival, one that would change everything for them all. But was the real danger rising from the depths of the dock, or echoing from the buried secrets of the night? She had to decide, could she face it, or would fear drown them all? Martha's heart thundered in her chest as she stared into the depths, where shapes twisted and writhed below the surface like living nightmares. The whispers of the crowd faded into a distant echo, leaving only Sarah's frantic cries piercing the deafening silence. "Martha, please." Sarah's voice sliced through the chaos, desperation blending with the cold spray of seawater that soaked Martha's clothes. She couldn't shake the sight of those struggling arms flailing against the dark tide. Something monstrous was circling just out of sight. With a wild rush of adrenaline, Martha's instincts kicked in. There was no time for fear. "I'm coming, Sarah," she shouted, resolving to jump into that terrifying abyss. She moved closer to the edge, the cold wood beneath her feet pulsing with each crashing wave. The crowd was in a frenzy, some pushing forward to help while others stood frozen, eyes wide with terror. "No, don't jump," Jake yelled, his voice cracking with panic. But she was already in motion, diving toward her friend, her pulse echoing in her ears like the roar of the ocean as she lunged for Sarah. A massive shadow surged beneath the surface, a rush of cold water washing over Martha like an icy slap. Panic clawed at her throat, but she forced herself to hold on to the hope that she could reach Sarah. With a desperate splash, Martha broke the surface, her arms outstretched. Sarah's terrified gaze met hers, a flicker of hope igniting in those wide eyes. Just as Martha's fingers brushed against her friend's hand, a sharp pull yanked them both underwater. The murky depths swallowed them whole, a frigid grip wrapping around her legs. Martha's heart threatened to abandon her as she fought against the crushing pressure of the dark water, her lungs screaming for air. She could barely see through the opaque gloom, but something massive was circling them, its shadow menacing and alive. Instinct kicked in. She kicked hard, pushing upward. In that moment, Martha was propelled by sheer will, a primal urge to live and save her friend. She broke through the surface, gasping for breath and frantically clawing toward Sarah, who was clearly struggling beneath the surface. "Martha! Help!" Sarah spluttered, her voice muffled. Martha reached again, fingers grasping for solid ground. But the darkness below surged upward suddenly, impossibly powerful, and the heavy weight of the water clenched down on her like a vice. A monstrous head emerged, glistening scales like polished obsidian catching the errant flashes of lightning in the storm above. Terror seized her heart as she locked eyes with the beast, a grotesque, serpentine figure that belonged in legend, not reality. The crowd gasped collectively, a freeze of horror sweeping over them. They swayed in shock, as if the storm had turned their hearts to ice. Martha's mind raced. She had to act. Summoning every ounce of strength, she dove back under, searching for Sarah. Then she felt a surge of something, as the creature coiled around them, its intentions unknown. Was it here to attack or to rescue? Suddenly, from the depths, a shimmer caught her eye, a pulse of light beneath the monstrous shadow. In that moment, Martha knew that this was more than just a fight for survival. It was a call to the mystery brewing beneath them. Something powerful was waiting, but what did it want? Through a tunnel of fear and adrenaline, she reached for Sarah again, desperate to untangle her friend from the creature's clutches. But just as her fingers brushed against Sarah's arm, a loud roar reverberated through the water, shaking Martha to her core. Was it the creature, or could some force even greater be awakening beneath the waves? Time stretched like taffy, and she realized it wasn't just their lives that hung in the balance. There was something deep down that was waiting to be unleashed, and they had woken ITS if they could sense this escalating danger. The crowd surged backward, all eyes on the dock, where both fear and myth intertwined in a web that was about to snap. What would rise from the depths when the storm settled? Would Martha and Sarah survive the revelation, or become part of the dark tale themselves? Martha's fingers gripped Sarah with a frantic urgency, yet the sea's icy embrace felt like chains holding them down. She could sense the grotesque creature hovering nearby, its presence a dark weight in the water that would not let go. The roar still echoed in her mind, a reverberation of something ancient and predatory, as she fought to pull Sarah closer. "Martha! There's something pulling me," Sarah gasped, her eyes wide with panic. The cold water threatened to steal their breath, but Martha pushed through, the fear tightening in her chest. "Just hold on," she shouted, her voice a fragile bubble in the chaos surrounding them. She kicked fiercely, her body moving instinctively, rhythmically, fueled by a mixture of terror and fierce determination. But reality was swiftly closing in. A powerful undulation rippled through the dark depths, and suddenly Martha understood the creature wasn't simply circling. It was hunting. Dread coiled in her gut as she turned back, her gaze scanning the swirling murk that encased them. What was it waiting for? She caught the glint of Sarah's eyes above the surface, a flicker of despair that ignited a new resolve within her. They had to escape. With sheer force of will, Martha surged upward, dragging Sarah with her. The darkness tried to pull them back, the pressure nearly crushing her lungs. Martha's arms burned from the effort as if battling against a tangible force, but she couldn't relent. In a flash, the dark shadow covered them, a presence so close she felt its breath, cold and clammy. Something began to pulse beside them, glowing like embers in the night. It was the shimmer she had spotted earlier, radiating light from a stone of vibrant azure that lay nestled among the rocks below. "Let us get to that light," Martha cried, hope flickering like a candle as she pointed towards it. The waves darkened around them, as if the sea itself raged at their intent to escape. She paddled hard toward the glowing beacon, Sarah's meager grip guiding them. But as they neared the light, it flickered violently. The creature seemed to sense their movement. its large head rearing back with a menacing hiss that echoed through the tumultuous water. A frigid terror settled over Martha as she realized the creature was willing to kill to protect whatever secret lay beneath. They broke the surface with a gasp, air filling their lungs as they fought to stay afloat between waves crashing like thunder. The crowd stood at the edge, screams of horror erupting as they witnessed the spectacle. Shock painted every face as they pointed in disbelief at the surface. A nightmare that had pulled them into its depths now loomed before them. "Help us!" Sarah shouted, her voice cracking. But all that met their cries was deafening silence. Eyes wide, frozen in fear, with a newfound force, Martha pulled Sarah closer, the glow from the stone illuminating their escape route just ahead. She felt the pull of the creature once again, its gaze locked upon them with savage intent. The fast turn of events threatened to overwhelm her. But that stone, it pulsed with a sense of urgency that resonated deep within her soul. "Keep swimming," Martha shouted, the words spilling out as she could feel the essence of an ancient force awakening around them. The creature briefly retreated, swirling backwards to observe them, allowing Martha a moment of clarity. "We can't let it stop us," she yelled, determination igniting the depths of her being. Just as they began to push forward, a sharp pain ripped through Martha's leg. The creature had lunged, teeth grazing her flesh. Hot blood surged into the water, mixing with the cold sea like a sacrificial offering to the monster. Martha felt fear rattle through her whole body, contemplating the very real cost of this struggle. Would they be ensnared forever? Or could that stone, whatever it was, be their salvation? As the stone's glow brightened, swirling currents tossed them about. For a brief moment hope flickered once more, urging her forward. What awaited them at the stone? Was it salvation or doom? Her heart raced. As darkness surged closer around them, would they grasp the truth and power hidden in the depths? Or would they remain forever lost to the tides of fear? As the creature roared again, ready to strike, the real question loomed like the tempest above. Were they about to unlock a power capable of saving them or unleashing something far more sinister? Martha felt the pain shoot through her leg, a sharp reminder of the reality they faced. The creature's monstrous presence loomed, a shadowy nightmare that twisted and coiled beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Panic tried to choke her, but raw determination surged within. They had to reach that glowing stone. "Hold on," Martha shouted to Sarah, her voice piercing through the chaos. The pulsing light called to her, shimmering like a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. It was now or never. Taking a deep, shaky breath, she kicked harder. The currents tossed them like rag dolls, but she fought against the pull of despair, gritting her teeth as she dragged Sarah along, pain burning in her leg. The creature was fast, darting to intercept them. Martha caught a glimpse of its gleaming teeth and piercing eyes. They were chilling reminders of the danger that threatened to devour them whole. With adrenaline pumping, she surged forward, her mind racing. They couldn't let fear win. "We're almost there," she urged, splashing toward the azure glimmer. The weight in the water surrounded them like a heavy shroud, but that stone pulsed with a light that felt alive. It beckoned them, promising a way out. With one final surge, Martha broke through the surface again, gasping for air. Sarah barely keeping up, but they were so close. The light brightened, almost beckoning. "Keep swimming," she yelled. Together they fought through the chaos, the creature's shadow looming ever closer. The feeling of darkness wrapped around them, threatening to pull them back. Just when she thought they wouldn't make it, Martha felt the cold roughness of the dock beneath her fingertips. They almost reached it. With sheer will, she lunged for the stone, her fingers brushing against the surface. The glow intensified, turning into a bright flash that illuminated the dark water. In that moment, something shifted. Power rippled through the air, and the creature surged back, recoiling from the light as if it had been struck. Martha and Sarah, intertwined in fear, were lifted toward the surface as if the very essence of the stone was carrying them. "Go! Grab it!" Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the panic. With a last desperate effort, Martha reached out and gripped the stone. The surge of energy that flowed through her was electric, coursing through her body like fire. The glow enveloped them, its brightness banishing the shadows. The dark figure, who had been locked in combat mere moments ago, froze, staring in disbelief as order and chaos intertwined before them. And then dark echoes surrounded the dock, the creature still lurking, but its intentions shifted. The realization hit Martha. They were no longer victims. They had awakened something extraordinary as the glow resonated. Their surroundings warped, the ominous presence retreating into the depths of the ocean. Freedom rushed through her heart. They had transformed the game, and with that power came the responsibility to wield it wisely. With one final yank, Martha and Sarah broke free from the water's grasp and landed on the dock, gasping for breath. It felt surreal, like waking from a dream that had twisted reality. The crowd remained in shock, watching with wide eyes as if they'd witnessed a miracle. Martha looked around her, breathless and exhilarated, realizing how far she had come in both courage and conviction. She turned to Sarah, whose face was pale yet filled with awe. "Did we just?" "Yeah," Sarah breathed, still awestruck. "We did." Jake rushed to Martha, a mix of relief and concern flooding his features. "Are you both okay?" His voice trembled, but there was a spark of admiration in his eyes. Martha nodded, the weight of decisions heavy on her shoulders but lighter than before. The glimmering stone pulsed softly in her grip, a reminder of their harrowing journey and the fragility of their existence. The dark figure stepped forward, his expression softened but still guarded. "You have no idea the magnitude of what you've just awakened," he warned, but a spark of respect flickered within his penetrating gaze. "I know if there's danger, we'll face it together." Martha's voice rang with newfound resolve, her heart steadying in the flicker of approaching dawn that painted the sky with muted golds and blues. What they faced was unprecedented, but the darkness held no fear for Martha anymore. She had crossed the abyss, and on the other side was a tapestry of possibilities waiting to unfold. Together they knew they could face the unknown as light broke across the horizon. They shared the unspoken vow that bound them, the promise of loyalty, courage, and the chance to rewrite their own destinies. "Let us go," Martha said, determination brightening her spirit. They would embrace whatever this new world had to offer, hand in hand as allies against a tide of uncertainty. Stepping forward together, they were ready to venture into the future. But the memories of that night would linger on, a haunting reminder of their strength in the face of darkness. The stone vibrated gently in her hand, a promise that they had the power to reshape their lives and the world beyond. Martha smiled, exhilarated by the adventure ahead, and the dawn continued to climb the sky, heralding the beginning of a new chapter. As the final scene settled into equilibrium, remember this: you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And for heaven's sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share the adventure. Real fans know the importance of backing the journey. Let's rise together.